What is good? I mean, what is really good, my people? It is UK, Trotter Brother, dr.blick, the darkest man around. And today, guys, I am here with MrNinjaStar. Say hello to the people, bruh.
Hello to the people, everyone. Happy to be on Dr. Blick's channel once again, where we are, once again talking about One Piece, as King of Lightning would put it. But One Piece chapter 882 predictions, and this is definitely going to be an interesting one. So yeah.
Yeah, like with all the stuff that's been going on, we've kind of been reiterating the same thing and saying the same things could happen, but this one I feel like the stuff that we say actually will happen this time. And of course I'm talking about Katakuri versus Luffy, them fighting, not just Luffy getting a one-sided beatdown, because let's be honest, that's literally what it's been so far. So I'm gonna hand it over to Ninja, and yeah, do you actually think that Luffy versus Katakuri is actually gonna happen, like competitively? Because it's been one-sided beatdown, and now that we know that Nami and the rest are all safe now, and they're going back to go meet Sanji and all them. So, what do you think is gonna happen in this chapter regarding Luffy versus Katakuri?
Alright, so before I, go into my actual what I think, so far, as we've seen, like, in the bits of Luffy versus Katakuri, it's just been Luffy getting beat down, and as we've seen in One Piece, there's not really a whole chapter or a whole episode primarily focused on one scene. It, like, transitions to another scene temporarily, and we saw this with the previous chapters. Like, we would get certain chapters where most of the focus was on, like, the Straw Hat crew, and then other chapters where most of the focus was on, like, Luffy, on, like, Sanji, Chiffon, and, Pudding. So it kind of varies. Like, we'll get certain chapters based on certain things, and with Luffy versus Katakuri, we haven't really gotten a chapter primarily focused on something like that. Like, we thought the last chapter was going to be like that, because we're like, okay, like 2 chapters ago, it was Jinbei, primary focus, and then the next chapter was, Chiffon and Pudding and Sanji, so now it would only make sense to continue the trifecta, and for it to be, Luffy versus Katakuri, but it wasn't, and that kind of surprised us. But you know what, it was like 50%, and I feel like the reason is because Oda doesn't want to show, like, a whole chapter, or the majority of a chapter, being just Luffy getting beat down. It gets very repetitive, and I can tell a lot of us would get sick of it anyways, so it would make a little more sense to have, like, to still fit it in there, but not be like the main focus. So when Luffy versus Katakuri is the main focus for a certain chapter, it's not just going to be one-sided, it's going to be a little more competitive, like you were saying. And yeah,
I totally agree with all the stuff that you said. Like, my personal opinion, what's going to happen in the next chapter, I feel like they're going to divert to showing Jinbei and Nami and Co trying to get to Thing, but struggling, because you guys know they're wanted. They're not cool with the crew. They're all wanted. People are all trying to get them. So getting to Sanji and Pudding is gonna be harder than it would normally be if they weren't wanted. If you know what I'm saying. Yeah. So I feel like they're gonna show a handful of that while diverting to Luffy versus Katakuri. I feel like that fight is still gonna be a beatdown. For at least the beginning half of it. I feel like it's gonna be a beatdown. Luffy's gonna try out all his moves. They're not gonna work, and finally he can go awakening, hopefully, or do something, or do a new variation of 4th gear, because he needs something, because he's getting his ass whooped. And I know a lot of people out there are theorizing that is Katakuri already awakened. I know you said that, so I'm gonna let you elaborate on that. So back to you.
Alright, so we haven't really seen too much of awakening fruits, to be honest. Like, yes, Doflamingo did explain it in Dressrosa, but it wasn't like a full-on explanation. It wasn't necessarily like how detailed Rayleigh explained it in the post-war arc, where Rayleigh, was explaining Haki in depth. Doflamingo just kind of, like, mentioned Devil Fruit Awakenings, like, oh, you can do this. It's better to use your Devil Fruit to the fullest, and everything like that. And we were like, oh, that's interesting, and it brought about a lot of new questions. Like, I think another big example that we've seen of Awakened Devil Fruit is probably with Aokiji and Akainu. Yeah, Aokiji and Akainu. We saw them fight on Punkastra for 10 days, and that completely changed the environment. Like, there was ice on one side and then fire on one side. They probably didn't even know they were doing all that. So that could be an example of, like, an Awakened Logia. And with Katakuri's Devil Fruit, it's Yeah, it's a paramecia, but it's a special paramecia as we've been seeing, and it's kind of in the same class as Luffy, to where it's like manipulating his own body, but he can do so much with it. And, like, it has a lot of potential. Like, if you just give like a random guy this fruit, he wouldn't be able to do anything with it, but if you give someone skilled enough who uses the Devil Fruit to his fullest, then yeah, it's gonna be deadly. And I feel like with Katakuri, with the way he's using his Devil Fruit, I feel like it's already awakened, to be fairly honest, because with the way he's able to mimic Luffy's moves, which Luffy's fruit, yes, that's not awakened as far as we've seen, but I feel like with Katakuri, since Mochi is different than rubber, maybe a special awakening for, you know, the Mochi Mochi no Mi, it would be like, you know, kind of imitating like that aspect of rubber and then going further with it. So I feel like Katakuri's already awakened his Devil Fruit, and if Luffy were to awaken his Devil Fruit, it would be similar to how Katakuri is doing it right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, and I see what you mean about about Katakuri being already awakened or having the ability to go awakened. Obviously, we know he probably has that in his arsenal. I'm in the standpoint that I feel that Katakuri is holding back. He's just showing Luffy that his Devil Fruit is superior to his. And when you really think about it, if you look at the moves that Katakuri is imitating, he's imitating Luffy's He's imitating Luffy's basic ass moves. Like, if you look at the moves that he's imitating, some of them, what's his name? Bellamy can pull off some of the moves that he's imitating, like Gum Gum Whip. Bellamy can do that with his Spring Fruit, bruh. And same with the Gatlings as well. Like, there's certain stuff that he's doing that is not really outlandish. The only thing that's outlandish that he did was third gear, when he like blew into his arm and made Luffy's one look like a baby arm, bruh, compared to his one. And you guys know, if you remember back in Water 7, or should I say Eni's lobby, when Luffy took out a ship with that big ass arm and that big ass foot, seeing Katakuri doing it, Lord have mercy. That shows how much stronger he is than Luffy, supposedly, based on what we've seen so far, because we don't know what Luffy has in store. Because at this moment in time, with the way things go, Luffy, there's only two ways of getting past Katakuri, or getting around this, or pretty much him coming out alive. There's only two ways. The first way is running, literally running, even though I don't think he can outrun Katakuri. The second way is literally fighting him. Those are the only two ways, because at the end of the day, he has people that are against him. So in terms of him getting into a mirror and trying to escape so that he can catch up with the rest of his crew, that is unlikely. And Luffy's not looking for that option. He's looking for the option to fight, and he knows that the fight is going to be hard. But as a whole, I feel like the chapter needs to be centered around this, because Oda's kind of been playing games with us. He's been teasing us a lot. He's been making people kind of frustrated, because to a lot of people, this chapter that just went, the chapter, like chapter 880, right? 880?
Yeah. No, it's
chapter
881. 881.
Chapter 881. Like, a lot of people were frustrated with the fact that everything was going at the pace that it did, because it seemed like Oda was trying to prevent us from seeing the true outcome of, or the true fight of Luffy versus Katakuri. Everything that he did was fine. It was understandable. Everything that happened was good. But in terms of an interest standpoint, it's not going to really intrigue most people, because a lot of people want the arc to end. A lot of people want this to be over. A lot of people want this arc to end as a whole. But when it comes down to this chapter and how it's going to be done, I am in the opinion of the fact that this chapter needs, and I mean it needs, to show a majority of Luffy versus Katakuri. But as a whole, I want to know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. But I'm going to give it back to Ninja if he's got anything else to add.
I do have a few things. I just have maybe one or two things to add. You know, as we've seen, Oda doesn't do, and I don't think it's really going to change this time around, Oda doesn't really do like chapters based on one specific thing, unless, you know, it's there's very rare instances, but I don't think this is going to be any different. It's probably not going to be entirely Luffy versus Katakuri, but it's going to be a decent enough majority. Like, last chapter, it was about 40% Luffy versus Katakuri, and then 60%, you know, the whole Straw Hat Crew situation. So, I feel like this time it's going to be like, I don't know, maybe like 70%, 75% of the whole Luffy versus Katakuri, and then transition to maybe like, maybe them like making the cake or something like that. And then I don't think most people are going to really stay tuned for how Sanji makes the cake, and same with putting a chiffon, but I feel like Oda's still going to show it one way or the other. Maybe if it's only a few panels or a few pages, but regardless though, that's just how I feel, and yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But when it comes down to the whole consensus of things, it really does seem like the chapter is going to be straightforward, unless Oda does a massive twist, unless he makes something dramatic happen. As a whole, is pretty much going to be like kind of what we said. I can't see it being anything else, to be honest. I really can't see it being anything else. I can only see it being the way it is, showing what's happening with the cake, showing what's happening with Nami and Jinbei in terms of them getting towards Sanji and Co, or showing Luffy versus Katakuri. I can't really see anything else that could happen unless they show Big Mom, which I don't think they will. I feel like Big Mom's gonna kind of come out of nowhere, like they're gonna kind of divert from her for a while. But as a whole, it has to be Luffy versus Katakuri, bro. We've been waiting for this fight. Like the feels of this fight being the sense of Rob Lucci versus Luffy is there, but in terms of the way things are pacing out to be, it doesn't feel like it's gonna be that level, because when Luffy fought him for the second time, the competitive aspect of it was a lot higher, even before Luffy went into second gear. Yeah. This one, it seems like Luffy has to transform or do a gear in order to challenge Katakuri, because this stuff ain't working. I'm confident that we could see fourth gear in the next chapter. I feel like that's gonna happen at least. At least we're gonna see fourth gear in the next chapter. Yeah. So it is what it is. So, got anything else to add, Ninja?
No, I don't really have too much to add. I just want to say, like, respond to what you were saying about the whole Luffy versus Rob Lucci thing. I don't want to drag this out too much, but I think, like, a lot of us were speculating before, you know, the whole fight started. We were like, okay, yeah, it's gonna parallel that fight. It's not as evenly matched as we think. I think it's kind of more similar to the Cracker versus Luffy, where Cracker was kind of dominating against Luffy for like the first half, and then maybe like, and then Luffy unveiled like a new form of gear, and then maybe that kind of overpowers his opponent. I feel like that could be a situation here. Maybe even the Doflamingo fight could mirror that, where Doflamingo's completely dominating for the first half, and then, you know, Luffy pulls out something and then ends up winning thanks to his willpower and spirit alone. And who knows, maybe this is going to pull a Yu Hakusho where the fights aren't as close, but you know what, that's a discussion for another day, and yeah.
Yeah, I can see everything you're saying. Maybe we're gonna see a fourth gear Luffy versus a fourth gear Katakuri.
Oh no, the fourth gear Katakuri, that's too much, bro. Too much.
Fourth gear Katakuri versus Luffy, bro. Hashtag that in the comment section below. In fact, that's gonna be the title of this video.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. So guys, like I said, make sure you check out the MrNinjaStar. Link will be in the description below. And make sure you check out the review I did with Royalty. The link to that will be in the description below. I highly recommend it. And yeah, let me just wrap up this video. So please comment and subscribe. I know I say this all the time, but at the end of the day, I'm just saying, please leave a like, rate, and enjoy this video. And yeah, this UK Chocolate Brother will catch you in the next one. Bye guys.
Peace.